I'm sitting here in the control room, watching 14 different camera feeds flicker across the monitors, and thinking about how everyone called me paranoid. They laughed when I bought this property 3 years ago. An old industrial warehouse on the edge of Bakersfield, surrounded by nothing but dried-up fields and abandoned farm equipment. My sister Kelly kept asking why I'd waste money on that rust bucket when I had a perfectly good condo in the city. My co-worker Brandon made jokes about me joining a cult. Even my ex-girlfriend Melissa said it was the final straw in our relationship. Like preparing for disaster was somehow crazier than her collection of 200 pairs of shoes. Turns out I wasn't paranoid enough. The TV in the corner is showing the same emergency broadcast it's been looping for the past 6 hours. Like a woman with perfect makeup and dead eyes, reading from a script about staying indoors and avoiding contact with anyone showing symptoms. She doesn't blink much. I wonder if she knows she's already dead. That whatever's happening out there has probably reached the station by now. The picture keeps cutting out, replaced by those harsh tones and scrolling text. Seek shelter. Avoid the infected. Help is coming. Help isn't coming. I know because I helped create this. Not directly, I tell myself that every time the guilt starts gnawing. I wasn't in the lab when they pushed it through to human trials. I wasn't the one who ignored the data showing neurological degradation in the test subjects. I wasn't the executive who decided that a 92% success rate was good enough and that the 8% exhibiting adverse reactions were acceptable losses in the fight against rabies. But I saw the numbers. I knew what was happening to those rats in the subterranean lab at Helios Pharmaceuticals. I watched them change. It started about 14 months ago. I was 3 years into my position as a senior research analyst, comfortable salary, good benefits, the kind of job my parents were proud to tell their friends about at dinner parties. Our son works in pharmaceuticals, very important research, saving lives. They didn't know I spent my days cataloging how quickly we could kill things or twist them into something unrecognizable. The rabies vaccine project was supposed to be revolutionary. Dr. Patricia Winters, the lead researcher, she had this vision of eradicating rabies entirely. No more horrific deaths. No more post-exposure prophylaxis. Just one shot and you're protected for life. The board loved it. Shareholders loved it. We got unlimited funding and state-of-the-art equipment, and this intense pressure to produce results fast, faster than ethical, faster than safe. I was assigned to monitor the animal trials. Mostly rats at first, then they moved to dogs once the initial data looked promising. The vaccine used a modified version of the rabies virus itself, genetically altered to provoke an immune response without causing infection. Textbook stuff, except Winters kept tweaking the formula, adjusting the viral load, adding compounds that weren't in the original proposal. She said it was to improve efficacy. I think she just wanted her name in medical journals. The rats in batch 7 started showing problems around week 3. Nothing obvious at first, just increased aggression during feeding times. We noted it in the reports, but didn't flag it as critical. By week 5, they'd stopped eating the pellets we provided and instead tried to bite through the cage walls to get at the unvaccinated control group in the next enclosure. Their eyes changed color, the pupils blowing out until the black nearly swallowed the iris. They moved differently too. Jerky and wrong, like something else was pulling the strings. I brought it up in the weekly meeting. Winters dismissed it as stress-related behavioral anomalies. She insisted we proceed to canine trials. The dogs got worse faster. German Shepherds specifically, because they wanted to test it on a breed commonly used for law enforcement and military work. Potential government contracts. Billions in revenue. The vaccinated dogs turned on the handlers within 48 hours. I watched through the observation window as a shepherd named Duke tore into the arm of the tech who'd been feeding him for 2 months. The guy's screaming still surfaces in my dreams sometimes. Duke didn't stop when they hit him with the tranquilizer. Took 4 darts before he went down, and even then his jaws were still working, trying to bite, teeth grinding together. They put Duke down that night, incinerated him and destroyed the samples. Officially, the trial was discontinued due to unforeseen complications. Unofficially, Winters rewrote the data, scrubbed the video footage, and submitted a modified proposal to the FDA that made everything look clean and successful. I found out because I accidentally accessed the original files before they were purged from the backup servers. I should have gone public. Whistleblower, federal investigation, the whole thing. But I was scared. Scared of losing my job, my reputation, my future. Scared of Helios's legal team, which had crushed better people than me. So I did the coward's thing. I quit. Gave them some story about pursuing other opportunities, shook hands with people I knew were lying, cleaned out my desk on a Friday afternoon, and never went back. But I took the data with me. Encrypted drive hidden in my apartment, insurance, in case they ever came after me. And I started preparing, because I knew Winters wouldn't stop. I knew the board would push her to human trials, and I knew she'd fake whatever results she needed to make it happen. The only question was when. I used my savings to buy this warehouse. 10,000 square feet of empty space with concrete walls 3 feet thick and a roof that didn't leak too badly. The previous owner had used it for manufacturing agricultural equipment before the recession killed his business. He was happy to sell it to some weird young guy with cash and no questions. Took me 2 years to convert it into what I called my contingency facility. I told people it was a hobby, a project, something to keep me busy. Really, I was building a fortress. The ground floor is storage mostly. 20-foot ceilings, rows of industrial shelving bolted to the floor and walls. I stocked it systematically over those 2 years, a little bit at a time so I wouldn't drain my bank account too obviously. Canned goods, rice, dried beans, flour, salt, sugar, cooking oil, bottled water, water filtration systems, chemical purification tablets, medical supplies, basic medications, antibiotics I ordered from overseas pharmacies with questionable legitimacy, tools, hardware, weapons. I bought 3 shotguns, 2 rifles, and a 9mm handgun through private sales, no background checks, along with enough ammunition to fight a small war. The second floor is where I'm sitting now. I converted it into living quarters with a bedroom, bathroom, kitchen area, and this control room. Solar panels on the roof feed into a battery array that can run the essential systems for 3 months without sunlight. Backup generator with 500 gallons of diesel fuel stored in the underground tanks I had installed. Water comes from a well I drilled myself, supplemented by rainwater collection and filtration. The whole place is sealed up tight, reinforced doors with electronic locks, windows covered with steel shutters that can be controlled remotely. The security system is what I'm most proud of. 14 cameras covering every approach to the building, motion sensors, pressure plates buried in the driveway, even some homemade tripwires connected to alarms. Everything feeds into the monitors in the control room. I can see anything coming from half a mile away in any direction. I spent my weekends out here, testing systems, running drills, making improvements. Kelly visited once, spent the whole time making comments about how I'd really gone off the deep end. She took pictures of my stockpile and posted them on social media with jokes about her crazy prepper brother. Got a lot of likes. I wonder if she's still alive to regret it. 3 weeks ago, I started seeing news reports about the human trials. Helios had partnered with a research hospital in San Diego, recruiting volunteers for what they were calling a revolutionary rabies prevention program. Free vaccine, small monetary compensation, helping advance medical science. They got 200 people to sign up in the first week. I knew immediately what was going to happen. The timing, the symptoms, everything matched what I'd seen in the animal trials. I tried to warn people, posted anonymously on medical forums and conspiracy websites, sent emails to journalists and federal agencies. No one listened. Anonymous tips about pharmaceutical malfeasance are a dime a dozen, and I couldn't prove anything without revealing who I was and destroying myself in the process. So I did the only thing I could. Thus I liquidated everything. Sold my condo, cashed out my retirement accounts, maxed out my credit cards buying last-minute supplies. Quit my current job at a biotech startup with some excuse about a family emergency. Packed everything I owned into a rented truck and drove it out to the warehouse. That was 11 days ago. The first symptoms appeared in San Diego 6 days ago. News reports about unusual behavior among participants in a medical study. Aggressive outbursts, attacks on hospital staff. One case of a man biting a nurse so severely she needed reconstructive surgery. Helios issued a statement about isolated adverse reactions and suspended the trial. The stock price dropped 15% in a single day. 4 days ago, the man who bit the nurse died in police custody. Except he didn't stay dead. Its security footage showed him getting up 3 hours after a doctor pronounced him deceased, attacking the officers guarding his room. That footage leaked online before Helios could suppress it. People thought it was fake, clever CGI, some kind of viral marketing stunt. 3 days ago, the nurse who'd been bitten died. She came back too, attacked her family in their home. By the time police responded, she'd infected her husband and 2 children. They all died. They all came back. 2 days ago, San Diego declared a state of emergency. The infection was spreading faster than anyone could track, not through air or water, but through bites, scratches, any exchange of bodily fluids from the infected. The incubation period was short, 8 to 12 hours before symptoms appeared. Fever, confusion, aggression, then death, then reanimation. 24 hours ago, the first cases appeared outside California. Las Vegas, Phoenix, Albuquerque. People fleeing San Diego, not knowing they were infected, spreading it everywhere they went. The roads became parking lots, packed with refugees trying to escape, which just made things worse when they started turning. 6 hours ago, the emergency broadcast system activated nationwide. That's when I sealed the warehouse completely. Locked every door, activated every security measure, settled in for the long haul. Now I'm watching the cameras and waiting. The feeds show empty fields in most directions. Brown grass and dirt roads, and the skeletal remains of an old barn about 200 yards to the east. To the west, there's an access road that connects to Highway 58, though I can't see the highway itself from here. North and south were nothing but flat land stretching to the horizon. Camera 9, which points down at the front gate, shows movement. I lean forward, studying the grainy black and white image. 2 figures stumbling up the driveway. Their gait is wrong, lurching and uncoordinated. One of them is dragging its left leg like the knee doesn't work anymore. The other keeps jerking its head to the side, some kind of nervous tic or muscle spasm. They're too far away for me to see details, but I know what they are. The news called them infected, or affected individuals, or persons experiencing severe adverse reactions to the vaccine. Euphemisms to avoid panic. But I know what they really are. The virus doesn't just kill, it rewrites the brain, strips away everything except the most basic predatory instincts. They're not people anymore. They're just hungry. I check the other cameras. Nothing approaching from the other directions yet. But it's only a matter of time. The warehouse is isolated, but it's not invisible. Eventually, something will draw them here. Sound, movement, who knows? Maybe they can smell living humans through the walls, though the research never indicated that level of sensory capability. The two figures reach the gate. It's a heavy steel construction, 12 feet tall, topped with razor wire I installed myself. They press against it, pushing with mindless persistence. One of them opens its mouth, and even through the camera I can see the black staining its teeth. Dried blood, probably. They don't make sounds, at least not that the camera microphones pick up. Just keep pushing against the gate, trying to get through. I pull up the camera controls and zoom in as much as the system allows. The image pixelates, but I can make out more details. The one with the dragging leg is wearing what used to be a business suit, now torn and filthy. The other has on a hospital gown, the back hanging open to show pale skin covered in dark bruises or maybe dried blood. Their eyes are wrong, pupils dilated so much they look black. No recognition in them, no thought, just empty hunger. They're not climbing. That's good. The animal test subjects never showed problem-solving skills beyond basic cause and effect. If these things retain that limitation, the fence will hold. Probably. The razor wire at the top should prevent any attempts to scale it, though I'm not sure they have enough self-preservation instinct to avoid shredding themselves trying. And I make a note in my log. Day 1 of full lockdown. 2 infected at front gate, 3:47 p.m. Mobile, ambulatory, showing typical symptoms. No apparent cognitive function, no attempt to climb or bypass barrier. The log is handwritten in a composition notebook. I have a dozen of them stacked on the desk, part of my supplies. Computer records are useful, but they depend on electricity and functioning hardware. Paper and pen will outlast both. My stomach growls, and I realize I haven't eaten since this morning. The adrenaline has been suppressing my appetite, but my body is starting to insist. I push back from the desk and head to the kitchen area. The kitchen is compact but well equipped. 2-burner propane stove, small refrigerator running off the solar batteries, sink connected to the water filtration system, cabinets stocked with essentials. I pull out a can of soup, chicken noodle because it's familiar and comforting, heated up in a pot. While it warms, I make coffee using the French press and water from the 5-gallon jug on the counter. The normalcy of the routine is almost surreal. Making soup and coffee while the world ends outside. But routine is important. Structure prevents panic. I learned that from my research, reading accounts from disaster survivors. The ones who made it through had systems, patterns, things they could control when everything else was chaos. I eat the soup slowly, sitting at the small table I salvaged from my old apartment. The coffee is too hot and burns my tongue, but I drink it anyway. Outside the reinforced windows, the sun is starting to set, orange light bleeding across the fields. Knows it would be beautiful if I didn't know what was happening out there. After eating, I check the cameras again. The 2 infected are still at the gate, still pushing uselessly against it. 3 more have appeared from the direction of the highway, walking with that same broken gait. They converge on the gate and join the first 2, all of them pressing forward in a cluster. 5 infected. Not a horde yet, but it's only the first day. I spend the next few hours monitoring the feeds and trying to distract myself with a book. It's a thriller, something I grabbed randomly from my apartment before leaving. The protagonist is trying to stop a terrorist attack on New York City. The stakes seem quaint now. I put it down after 20 pages and switched to checking the news on my laptop. The internet is still working, which surprises me. I expected infrastructure to collapse quickly. But apparently, the automated systems are resilient. Most major websites are still updating, though the information is fragmented and increasingly unreliable. Twitter is a nightmare of conflicting reports and conspiracy theories. Facebook is full of people looking for missing relatives. Reddit has mega-threads trying to compile reliable information, but it's mostly chaos. The CDC website has a banner about the current health crisis with recommendations that are already outdated. Avoid infected individuals. Seek medical attention for bites or scratches. Report symptoms to local authorities. None of it matters. The medical system is overwhelmed, probably collapsed in most places. Local authorities are either dead or running. I find a live stream from someone in Los Angeles. The camera is shaky, showing the view from an apartment window overlooking a street. There are burning cars and bodies, and infected wandering in groups. The streamer is crying, talking to the camera about how they're running out of food, how they can hear screaming from other apartments. The view count is climbing into the thousands, people watching someone's potential final moments like it's entertainment. I close the browser. There's nothing useful to be gained from watching the collapse in real time. I already know how bad it is. Better to focus on what I can control. Before bed, I check the cameras one more time. The group at the gate has grown to 8. They're not going anywhere, just standing there in the dark, swaying slightly. The motion-activated floodlights I installed illuminate them in harsh white light, casting long shadows across the driveway. 8 infected between me and the outside world. How many will there be by morning? I set an alarm for every 3 hours, wanting to check the feeds regularly throughout the night. Sleep feels dangerous, like I might miss something critical. But I need rest to function, so I compromise. 3-hour intervals, quick checks, back to sleep if nothing has changed. The bedroom is small, barely enough space for the bed and a dresser. I installed blackout curtains over the windows, even though they're covered by steel shutters from the outside. Multiple layers of security. I undressed down to a t-shirt and boxers, set my 9mm on the nightstand, and climb into bed. Sleep doesn't come easily. Every sound makes me tense. The warehouse settling, the wind against the walls, the hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. Normal sounds transformed into potential threats by context and fear. I lie there staring at the ceiling, thinking about everyone I knew before this. Kelly with her social media addiction and her marketing job. My parents and their retirement community in Arizona. Brandon and the rest of my co-workers at the startup. Melissa, wherever she ended up after we broke up. Are any of them alive? Probably not. Most people weren't prepared for this. They trusted the authorities, believed help would come, waited too long to act. By the time they realized how bad it was, the roads were impassable, and the infection was everywhere. I tell myself I did what I could. Tried to warn people, even if they didn't listen. Prepared myself for survival. Made the hard choices when others were still in denial. But lying here in the dark, I can't escape the guilt. I knew this was coming. Maybe not the exact timeline or mechanism, but I knew Helios was going to create a disaster, and I ran instead of stopping them. Would it have made a difference if I'd gone public? Probably not. The wheels were already in motion, but at least I would have tried. The alarm wakes me at midnight. I drag myself out of bed and check the cameras. 14 infected at the gate now. None at the other approaches yet, though camera 6 shows some movement in the far distance, too unclear to identify. Back to bed. Alarm at 3 a.m. 20 infected at the gate, packed together in a mass of bodies. They're not doing anything except standing there, occasionally pushing against the steel. The gate is holding. Alarm at 6 a.m. I give up on sleep and make coffee. 31 infected visible on camera 9. More scattered around the perimeter, drawn by something I can't identify. Maybe they heard the generator when it kicked on during the night. Maybe they're just wandering randomly, and this is where they ended up. The sun is rising, light creeping across the fields. I stand at the window and look out through the gap between the steel shutter and the frame. I can see some of them from here. Dark figures silhouetted against the brown grass. They don't move like humans. Too stiff, too mechanical, like poorly programmed robots. I eat breakfast, oatmeal with raisins and brown sugar, more coffee, brush my teeth, take a shower in the compact bathroom. The water is cold because I didn't run the heater, trying to conserve power. It's shocking and unpleasant and makes me feel more awake. Day 2 begins, or I spend the morning organizing supplies and reviewing my contingency plans. I have enough food for approximately 8 months if I ration carefully. Water is less of a concern because of the well and filtration system, assuming those keep functioning. Medical supplies are adequate for treating minor injuries and illnesses. Ammunition is extensive, but not infinite. I count the magazines for the 9mm. 12 plus the one in the gun. 15 rounds each. 195 rounds total. The shotgun has maybe 80 shells. The rifles have 200 rounds between them. Sounds like a lot until you consider how many of them are out there. But ammunition only matters if they get inside. The primary defense is the structure itself. Concrete walls, reinforced doors, steel shutters over every window. I designed this place to be a bunker. It should hold. Should. I make a circuit of the interior, checking for any weaknesses I might have missed. The loading dock door on the north side is secured with a heavy steel bar and multiple padlocks. The personnel door on the east side is steel reinforced with the electronic deadbolt that needs a 6-digit code to open. All the windows are covered and locked from inside. The roof access is a reinforced hatch with a lock I can only open from the inside. Everything looks secure. I try to feel reassured and fail. Around noon, I hear them for the first time. The camera microphones pick it up before I do, a low moaning sound like wind through a broken window. I turn up the volume on the feed from camera 9. The mass of infected at the gate is making noise now, dozens of voices creating a chorus of wordless hunger. It's not loud, just persistent. A background drone that makes my skin crawl. I wonder what triggers the vocalization. Frustration at not being able to get through the gate? Some kind of instinctive communication? The research never got far enough to determine if they retained any capacity for coordinated behavior. Camera 11, pointing south, shows a new group approaching. 10 of them, moving in a loose cluster. They're following the fence line, feeling their way along it. When they reach the corner, they turn and continue, eventually joining the crowd at the gate. 43 infected visible across all cameras. The number keeps growing. I try to distract myself with work. I've been thinking about documenting everything that happened at Helios, creating a proper timeline with all the evidence I gathered. If I survive this, the world needs to know how it started. Accountability, prosecution, prevention of future disasters. Noble goals that feel increasingly meaningless. But it gives me something to do besides watch the cameras. So I open up the encrypted files on my laptop and start organizing them. Research notes, test results, internal memos. I create a document and begin writing, trying to present the information clearly and objectively. 3 hours later, I have 12 pages detailing the early animal trials and the problems that were ignored or suppressed. Reading it back makes me angry. So many red flags. So many opportunities to stop this before it reached human trials. And everyone involved just kept pushing forward, blinded by ambition or greed or willful ignorance. Dr. Winters especially. She knew. I'm certain she knew how dangerous this was. But she wanted her breakthrough, her legacy, her name in medical history. She got it, though not the way she imagined. I wonder if she's still alive. Probably not. Poetic justice would have her be one of the first infected, killed by her own creation. The thought gives me no satisfaction. Dinner is rice and beans with some canned vegetables mixed in. I eat while watching the news on my laptop. The major networks are still broadcasting, but the content is mostly automated now. Prepared statements from government officials urging calm, emergency instructions that no longer apply. Footage from earlier in the outbreak, before the cameras stopped rolling. One stream shows an interview recorded yesterday with a military spokesman. He's talking about containment protocols and organized evacuation procedures and federal response coordination. All lies. The comment section below the video is full of people calling him out, posting evidence that the military has lost control, that the evacuation centers became infection zones, that there is no coordinated response. I switched to Twitter. The trending topics are all variations of the same thing. Zombie outbreak, end of the world, survival tips. Someone has created a map tracking confirmed sightings of infected, color-coded by density. The entire West Coast is red. Most of the Southwest and Mountain West, too. The infection is spreading east, following the highways and population centers. There are still pockets of communication from survivors. People posting updates from wherever they've holed up. An apartment building in Denver, a rural farm in Montana, a boat anchored offshore near Seattle. They share information, advice, solidarity. It won't last. Eventually the power will fail, the internet will collapse, and all these voices will go silent. I close the laptop and check the cameras. 58 infected visible now. Most of them clustered at the front gate, but with growing numbers around the entire perimeter. They're not trying to break in, just standing there waiting. For what? They don't have the cognitive capacity for patience or planning. But something keeps them here instead of wandering away. Maybe it's instinct. Predators waiting for prey to emerge. Or maybe there's some residual human memory. A vague awareness that structures like this contain living people. And the research suggested the virus destroyed higher brain functions while leaving the brain stem intact, preserving basic drives like hunger and aggression. But we never fully understood how much remained underneath. I watched them sway in the darkness, illuminated by the floodlights. Some of them are in worse condition than others. One is missing an arm, the ragged stump hanging uselessly at its side. Another has a caved-in skull, the bone visible through torn skin. They should be dead. They are dead, technically. But the virus keeps the body moving, puppeting the corpse for its own purposes. That night, I dream about the lab at Helios. I'm back in the observation room watching the vaccinated rats tear into the control group. But when I look closer, the rats have human faces. Kelly, my parents, Brandon. They're screaming as they bite each other, eyes black with infection. Dr. Winters is standing next to me, taking notes. She looks at me and smiles. "Excellent data," she says. "Very promising results." I wake up sweating, heart racing. The alarm is beeping. 3 a.m. I silence it and check the cameras. 71 infected. The number is accelerating. By morning, there are over 100. Day 3. I'm running low on coffee and trying to ration it. But the caffeine helps me stay alert, so I make a full pot anyway. I'll deal with withdrawal later if I survive that long. The mass at the gate is getting thicker, bodies packed together so tightly I can't count them accurately anymore. They've started pushing harder against the steel, the combined weight of so many bodies creating pressure on the hinges. And I watched nervously as the gate flexes slightly. It's designed to withstand a lot of force, but I never anticipated this much sustained pressure. I grab my binoculars and go to the second-floor window, looking out through the gap in the shutter. From here, I can see the gate more clearly. The infected are pressed against it like concert-goers against a barrier, 3 or 4 deep. More are arriving constantly, drawn by the crowd or the noise or whatever algorithm drives them. Some of them are fresh, recently turned, still wearing clean clothes and showing minimal decay. Others are worse, clothing torn or missing, skin gray and mottled, visible injuries that would have killed a living person. I see a woman in a nurse's uniform, a man in a police uniform, a teenager in a high school letter jacket. Lives ended, identities erased, you're reduced to hunger. I look away and lower the binoculars. Staring at them doesn't help. The day passes slowly. I try to keep busy with maintenance tasks, checking systems, organizing supplies. I clean the guns even though they don't need it, just for something to do with my hands. The familiar routine of disassembly and reassembly is meditative, requiring just enough focus to quiet my thoughts. Around 3 p.m., something changes. I notice it on camera 6, the one pointed south. The infected along that section of fence have stopped their random swaying and are all facing the same direction, heads turned toward something beyond the camera's view. They stand motionless for several seconds, then suddenly begin moving, walking away from the warehouse toward whatever caught their attention. I switch between cameras, us watching as more of them turn and walk away. Not all of them, but maybe a third of the total. Within 10 minutes, the crowd at the gate has thinned noticeably. Whatever drew them off, it was significant enough to override their fixation on the warehouse. I should feel relieved. Fewer infected means less pressure on the defenses. But instead, I feel uneasy. What could pull them away like that? Gunshots, screaming, another survivor. I scan the horizon through the binoculars, but see nothing except empty fields and distant hills. Whatever happened is beyond my line of sight. The infected that remained continue their vigil at the fence, seemingly unaffected by the departure of the others. I count roughly 70 still visible across all cameras. Still too many, but better than 100 plus. The night I lie in bed thinking about other survivors. How many are out there? How many made it to safety? The internet suggests there are pockets of resistance, organized groups with weapons and supplies, military units that haven't fallen apart, government bunkers with functioning infrastructure. But for every success story, there are dozens of disasters. Evacuation centers overrun, safe houses breached, rescue attempts that ended in massacre. I think about trying to reach out, making contact, joining forces. The warehouse is secure, but it's not a long-term solution. Eventually, supplies will run out, systems will fail. Humans are social creatures. We're not meant to survive alone. But reaching out means risk. Opening the gates, leaving the safety of these walls, trusting strangers. Every zombie movie I've ever seen teaches the same lesson. The living are often more dangerous than the dead. Desperation makes people do terrible things. Better to stay hidden, stay safe, stay alive. For now. Day 4 begins with a surprise. I check the cameras at dawn and find the number of infected has dropped further. Only about 40 visible across all feeds. The mass at the gate has dispersed significantly, just a dozen or so still pressing against the steel. I watch the feeds carefully, trying to understand the pattern. They're not wandering randomly. The ones leaving are heading south and east, following some kind of trail. I zoom in on camera 6 and see them walking in an almost straight line across the field, moving with more purpose than their usual aimless stumbling. Something is drawing them, or something sustained enough to pull them away from the warehouse. I spend the morning monitoring their movement. By noon, there are less than 20 infected visible. By evening, less than 10. The gate stands empty for the first time since they started gathering. I should be celebrating. Instead, I'm terrified. Because if something out there is attracting that many infected, something loud or violent or populated, it means other people. And if there are other people, they're probably dying right now. Their screams and struggles drawing the infected like moths to a flame. I try not to think about it. Try to focus on the positive. The pressure on my defenses has decreased. I have breathing room to do maintenance, to rest, to plan for the long term. But I can't shake the image of someone out there, maybe holed up in a farmhouse or a barn, suddenly surrounded by hundreds of infected drawn by their presence. The weight of bodies breaking through doors and windows, the screaming cutting off into silence. It could have been me. It still could be, if I make a mistake, if something fails. That night, the nightmares return. Not the lab this time, but the warehouse overrun, infected pouring through breaches I didn't know existed. I'm running through the corridors, trying to reach the roof access, but the doors won't open, and they're behind me, hands grabbing, teeth biting. I wake up gasping, reaching for the gun on the nightstand before I remember where I am. Safe. Still safe. I check the cameras. 5 infected visible. The gate is clear. Day 5. I'm starting to establish a routine. Wake at 6, check cameras, coffee and breakfast, maintenance and supply inventory, lunch, more monitoring, dinner, reading or writing before bed. Structure against chaos. Pattern against panic. The infected that remain are scattered, 1 or 2 visible per camera at most. They wander aimlessly, sometimes stopping to investigate something I can't see, then moving on. None show interest in the warehouse anymore. The floodlights don't attract them. The generator noise doesn't draw them. Whatever made this place interesting has faded. I risk opening one of the steel shutters slightly, just enough to look out directly instead of through a camera. The field beyond is empty in the midday sun. Brown grass waving in the breeze, birds flying overhead. It looks almost normal until I spot the figure in the distance, stumbling along the fence line. Too far away to be a threat, but close enough to remind me this isn't over. I close the shutter and lock it. The news has degraded further. Most major websites are offline now. Twitter is dying, long gaps between new posts, most from people saying goodbye or documenting their final moments. The live stream channels have gone dark. Even the emergency broadcast system is glitching, the signal cutting out for minutes at a time. I find one functioning news site, a local station in Montana that's somehow still updating. Their last post is from this morning, a short message saying they're abandoning the building due to infection breaching the perimeter. They sign off with, "Good luck, everyone. We tried." That's it. No more news. No more information. Just me and the cameras and the static from the dead broadcast channels. I start writing more in my log, in detailed observations of infected behavior and environmental conditions. Future researchers might find it useful. Assuming there are future researchers, assuming humanity survives long enough to study what happened. Entry for Day 5 includes notes on decreased infected activity, possible migratory patterns, and the concerning silence from all communication channels. I write about my own mental state too. The isolation starting to wear on me, the nightmares getting worse. Documenting it helps somehow, like putting it on paper makes it more manageable. That afternoon, I hear an explosion in the distance. Not close, maybe several miles south, but loud enough to rattle the windows. I rush to the cameras and binoculars, scanning for the source. There's a plume of smoke rising from beyond the hills, black and thick. Something big burning, or a building collapse, or maybe military action. The infected in view all turn toward the sound, then start walking in that direction. Within an hour, the cameras show 0 infected. They've all migrated toward whatever caused the explosion. I watch the smoke rise until sunset, then fade to a dull glow on the horizon. Probably a fuel tank or propane storage. Maybe someone trying to create a distraction or clear an area. It's impossible to know from here. The warehouse feels emptier without the infected outside. Too quiet. I find myself missing the moaning sounds they made, the visual confirmation that they were there and not in here. Now I'm left with uncertainty, imagination filling the gaps with worse scenarios. Day 6. Still no infected visible on cameras. The smoke on the horizon has dissipated, nor everything is quiet. I decide to test the fence integrity, making a full circuit of the interior perimeter to check for any damage from the days of pressure. I suit up with thick clothing, gloves, and a leather jacket, grab the 9mm and a flashlight, and unlock the door to the ground floor. The stairs are dark, the warehouse floor below mostly unlit to save power. I flip the switches for a section of overhead lights and descend carefully. The ground floor is exactly as I left it. Rows of shelving stocked with supplies, nothing disturbed. I make my way to the nearest exterior wall and begin my inspection. The walls are concrete, no cracks or damage visible. I move along the perimeter, checking each section methodically. The loading dock door is secure, the locks intact. The personnel door shows no signs of tampering. I complete the circuit and find nothing wrong. The structure held perfectly. I should feel accomplished. All that preparation paid off. The warehouse is secure and functional, and I'm alive. But standing here in the dim light, surrounded by supplies that might outlast me, I just feel alone. Back upstairs, I make lunch and try to occupy myself with reading. The thriller I abandoned earlier is still sitting on the table. I pick it up and force myself to focus on the words. The protagonist has discovered the terrorists are planning to release a biological weapon in the subway system. He's racing to stop them while dealing with a corrupt superior who doesn't believe his evidence. The irony is almost painful. Fiction about preventing a disaster while the real disaster has already happened, and there was no hero to stop it. Just corporate greed and scientific hubris and my cowardice. I throw the book across the room. It hits the wall and falls to the floor, pages bent. Childish, but it makes me feel slightly better. Day 7. 1 week since lockdown. The cameras show no infected anywhere in the immediate area. I spend the day doing inventory, checking every item against my logs, making sure nothing has spoiled or degraded. Everything is accounted for and in good condition. 8 months of food confirmed, assuming I maintain current consumption rates. 8 months. Then what? I have seeds for planting, but growing crops means going outside, maintaining a garden, exposing myself to whatever threat remains. I have fishing equipment, but the nearest body of water is 5 miles away. I have hunting rifles, but ammunition is finite, and game will become scarce as the infected or other survivors deplete it. Long-term survival requires more than hiding in a bunker. It requires adapting, risking, venturing out eventually. The thought terrifies me. I check the news sites again out of habit. Everything is down except for a few automated emergency broadcasts that loop endlessly. I switch to radio, scanning through frequencies. Static on most channels, a few with automated voices repeating evacuation instructions for areas probably already overrun. I find one channel with what sounds like a human voice, but it's too broken up to understand, cutting in and out with interference. I adjust the antenna and filters, trying to clean up the signal. For a few seconds, it comes through clearly. A man's voice, older, calm, holding position at the following coordinates. Supplies running low, but we're secure. If anyone can hear this. We're accepting refugees, but only if you're uninfected and unarmed upon approach. We have medical facilities and food production, long-term sustainability. Then it cuts out, replaced by static. I try to find it again, but the signal is gone. I scan through the surrounding frequencies with no luck. Was it real? A recording? Some kind of trap? I noted in my log. Possible survivor group broadcasting on shortwave, coordinates unknown due to signal interruption. Too risky to pursue without more information. The isolation is getting to me. I find myself talking out loud, narrating my actions like I'm making a documentary. Now I'm checking camera 3. No movement. Moving to camera 4. It's embarrassing, but it helps. The sound of a voice, even my own, breaks the oppressive silence. That night I dream about the broadcast. In the dream, I find the coordinates and drive there, arriving at a massive compound with walls and gardens and hundreds of survivors living normally. They welcome me, give me food and a bed, introduce me to people who become friends. I feel relief so intense, it's almost painful. Then one of them bites me. I look down and see blood, see the infection spreading up my arm. Everyone backs away as I start to change. I try to explain that I'm different, that I know what's happening, that I can fight it. But my words come out as moans, and I realize I've already lost. I wake up clawing at my arm, checking for bite marks that aren't there. The phantom pain lingers for several minutes before my rational brain reasserts control. Just a dream. I'm fine. Still uninfected, still safe. But the fear remains. Day 8. I'm rationing coffee now, down to 1 cup per day. The caffeine withdrawal is causing headaches, but I need to make the supply last. I drink it slowly, savoring every sip, remembering coffee shops and casual conversation and the simple pleasure of a good brew. The cameras still show no infected. I risk going outside for the first time since lockdown. The process takes an hour of preparation. I dress in layers, thick pants and long sleeves, and the leather jacket. Gloves, boots, a motorcycle helmet I bought specifically for protection against bites. I load the shotgun and the 9mm extra ammunition in my pockets. I review the camera feeds one more time, confirming the area is clear. The exterior door has 3 locks. I unlock them one by one, hands shaking slightly. The final lock disengages with a heavy click. I take a breath, chamber a round in the shotgun, and push the door open. Sunlight and fresh air hit me immediately. I'd forgotten how bright the world is, how the air tastes outside of recycled ventilation. I stand in the doorway for a moment, adjusting, scanning for threats. Nothing. Just empty field and blue sky and the sound of wind. I step outside, shotgun ready. My boots crunch on gravel. A bird calls from somewhere nearby. Everything is still and quiet and normal, except for the knowledge that it's not, that danger could appear at any moment. I move along the wall toward the front gate, staying close to the building, ready to retreat inside at the first sign of trouble. The fence comes into view, and I see the damage for the first time with my own eyes. The gate is bent, not broken, but warped from all that pressure. The steel bowed inward at the center. The hinges have stress fractures. It would probably still stop a person, but it's compromised. If the infected return in numbers like before, it might not hold. I need to reinforce it. Welding equipment is in the workshop on the ground floor. I could add support bars, replace the damaged hinges. But that means spending time outside, making noise, attracting attention. I file it away as a priority task for later and continue my circuit. The fence shows wear in other places too. Areas where bodies pressed against it, leaving stains, sections where the chain link has stretched. But the overall structure is intact. I complete my patrol and return to the door. Relief flooding through me as I step back inside and lock it behind me. 20 minutes outside. It felt like hours. But I did it. Proved to myself I can still function beyond these walls if necessary. Small victory. The rest of the day passes quietly. I work on a repair plan for the gate, sketching designs in my log, calculating materials needed. It's productive, focusing on a concrete problem with concrete solutions. Day 9. I wake to the sound of rain on the roof. Heavy, steady, the kind that soaks everything. I check the cameras and visibility is poor through the downpour, but I can see water pooling in the driveway, running in streams toward the drainage ditches I dug specifically for this. The solar panels will be less efficient today, so I switched to battery power for non-essential systems. The rain barrels I installed on the roof will fill, giving me additional water storage. Silver linings. I spend the day inside, working on the Helios documentation. I've expanded it to 30 pages now, a comprehensive timeline of the vaccine development and the warning signs that were ignored. I include everything I can remember, every meeting, every test result, every conversation with Dr. Winters where she dismissed concerns. Reading it back makes me angry all over again. So preventable. If anyone had listened, if anyone had prioritized safety over profit, millions of people would still be alive. But anger doesn't change anything. I saved the document to multiple drives, encrypted and hidden in different locations throughout the warehouse. Much evidence for a future that might never come. The rain continues through the evening. I make dinner and eat while watching the water stream down the windows behind the steel shutters. The sound is almost soothing, nature continuing its patterns regardless of human catastrophe. That night, I don't dream. I sleep deeply, exhausted from days of accumulated stress. When I wake for the 3 a.m. camera check, I almost skip it, wanting to fall back into that peaceful unconsciousness. But discipline wins out. I drag myself to the control room and pull up the feeds. Camera 9 shows movement. I zoom in, wiping sleep from my eyes. 3 figures standing at the gate. Not infected, something about their posture is different. They're looking at the warehouse, heads moving like they're discussing something. One of them waves at the camera. Living people, survivors. I'm suddenly wide awake, adrenaline spiking. I switch to the external microphone and speakers I installed for situations exactly like this. My finger hovers over the button. Do I make contact? Reveal my presence? Trust strangers in an apocalypse? The figures wait at the gate. One of them cups their hands around their mouth and shouts something I can't quite hear through the rain. The microphone picks up fragments. Anyone need help, please? They need help, or they're claiming to need help. Classic trap scenario. Survivors use distress to lure others out, then rob or kill them. I've read enough post-apocalyptic fiction to know the tropes. But they're also just standing there in the rain at 3 in the morning, soaked and probably cold, looking for shelter. If I turn them away and they die, that's on me. I press the button for the external speaker. Stay where you are. Don't try to climb the fence or approach the building. My voice booms out across the field, amplified and distorted. The three figures jump, then look up at the speaker mounted on the gatepost. One of them steps forward. Male, 30s maybe, hard to tell in the low light and rain. He raises his hands in a non-threatening gesture. We're not infected. We've been on the road for 3 days. We saw your lights, please. We just need somewhere safe to rest. I study them through the camera. 2 men and a woman. They're carrying backpacks, but no visible weapons. Their movements are smooth and coordinated, nothing like the jerky stumbling of the infected. They look exhausted. How many of you are there? I ask through the speaker. Just us 3. Me, my brother, and our friend. Please, there's a horde about 2 miles east. We barely got ahead of them. A horde. That explains where the infected went. They converged into a larger group, probably hundreds strong now, moving and consuming anything in their path. I make a decision that might be stupid or might save 3 lives. There's a medical kit on the post next to the speaker. Inside is a rabies test. All 3 of you need to test negative before I even consider letting you in. The man nods frantically. Yes, okay, anything. I watch as he finds the kit, a small weatherproof box I installed weeks ago for exactly this scenario. Inside are rapid rabies antibody tests, the kind used in hospitals for post-exposure assessment. They're not perfect, but they're better than nothing. And the 3 of them perform the tests under the camera's view, finger pricks and blood samples on test strips. I watch the strips develop, counting the minutes. All 3 show negative. No rabies antibodies, meaning no infection. Probably. Okay, I say through the speaker. I'm going to open the gate remotely. You walk to the personnel door on the east side of the building. Stay in view of the cameras. Any sudden movements and I will shoot you. Understand? Understood. Thank you so much. I press the button that unlocks the gate mechanism. It swings open with a groan of stressed metal. The 3 survivors walk through quickly, and I close it behind them. I track their movement on the cameras as they head toward the east door. They're moving slowly, deliberately, keeping their hands visible. And either they're genuinely grateful or they're smart enough to play it safe. I grab the 9mm and head downstairs, positioning myself behind cover with a clear line of fire to the door. The knock comes exactly when expected. Polite, measured. I engage the intercom. Place your bags on the ground and step back 5 feet. They comply. I watch on the nearby monitor as they move away from their bags. I unlock the door remotely and let it swing open. One at a time. You first? I indicate the man who spoke earlier. He enters slowly, hands still raised. He's younger than I thought, late 20s, with shaggy brown hair and several days of stubble. His clothes are dirty and torn, but he looks healthy. Against the wall, spread your arms and legs. I pat him down while keeping the gun trained on him, checking for weapons or bites. Nothing. He's clean. Name? Trevor Gallagher. You're going to stand right there and not move while I check the other 2. Clear? Crystal. I repeat the process with his brother, an older version of Trevor named Scott, and then the woman who introduces herself as Rebecca. None of them are armed. None of them show signs of infection. They look like what they claim to be, survivors who got lucky. But I'm not taking chances. Here's how this works. You 3 stay on the ground floor for the next 48 hours. There's food and water down here, a bathroom in the corner. I'll be watching on cameras. If any of you show symptoms, I will lock the ground floor and you will not be coming upstairs. Am I clear? Completely clear, Trevor says. And thank you, seriously. We've been sleeping in ditches and running from those things for days. What happened to your shelter? Apartment building in Bakersfield. We thought we were safe on the upper floors, but they figured out how to climb the stairs. Just kept piling up until they reached the third floor, then the fourth. We barely got out. They can climb stairs. That's new information, contradicting what I thought I knew. The virus is adapting, or I underestimated their capabilities. Tell me about the horde you mentioned. Rebecca speaks for the first time. She's blonde, early 30s, with a nasty bruise on her left cheek. Hundreds of them, maybe more. They're moving west, following the highway. We saw them from a distance yesterday. They're coordinated somehow, moving in a mass. It's not random anymore. My stomach drops. Coordinated movement suggests higher-level brain function than the virus should allow. Either it's mutating or I'm missing something fundamental about how it affects the brain. How far behind you are they? We've been moving faster than them, but they don't stop. Maybe 6 hours behind us? Maybe less? 6 hours. If they maintain their speed, they'll reach the warehouse by mid-morning. I need these 3 settled and contained so I can focus on defense. Okay, you 3 get some rest. There's cots in the storage area, blankets in the bins marked bedding. Food and water are clearly labeled. Don't touch anything else. I'll check on you in a few hours. I back toward the stairs, keeping the gun on them until I'm out of sight. Then I run up to the control room and start reviewing the camera feeds with new urgency. Nothing visible yet. But if Rebecca's timeline is accurate, I have maybe 6 hours to prepare for an assault by hundreds of infected. The gate won't hold. Not against those numbers. I need to reinforce it. And I need to do it now, in the dark, in the rain, with 3 strangers on the ground floor, who I only mostly trust. I grab my gear and head back down. Trevor, Scott, and Rebecca are settling into the cots, clearly exhausted. I address them without lowering the gun. I need to work on the gate. You 3 stay put and stay quiet. Any problems? I'll hear about them on the cameras. Trevor nods. We're just grateful to be inside walls. We won't cause trouble. I want to believe him. I need to believe him, because I can't watch them and work on the gate simultaneously. So I choose to trust and hope it's not a mistake. Outside, when the rain has lessened to a drizzle, but everything is slick and muddy, I haul the welding equipment from the workshop, heavy and awkward, and set up near the gate. The arc welder runs off the generator, which is louder than I'd like, but there's no alternative. I work quickly, welding support bars across the gate's weak points, reinforcing the hinges, adding cross beams. The bright flare of the torch ruins my night vision, but the work has to be done. Every few minutes, I stop and scan the darkness, listening for the telltale moaning that would signal approaching infected. Nothing yet. Just rain and darkness, and my own harsh breathing inside the helmet. 2 hours of work. The gate is significantly stronger now, enough to withstand more pressure than before. Not enough to stop hundreds, but maybe enough to slow them down. I'm packing up the equipment when I hear it. Faint, distant, but unmistakable. The sound of the horde. It's not moaning exactly, more like a rumble, hundreds of bodies moving together, creating a low-frequency sound that carries on the wind. I freeze, trying to pinpoint the direction. East, just like Rebecca said, and getting closer. I grab the equipment and run for the door, not caring about noise anymore. Inside, I lock everything down and rush to the control room. Camera 7 pointing east shows them. A wall of bodies moving across the field. Not hundreds. Thousands. Shambling forward in a mass so dense I can't see individual figures, just a seething darkness that consumes everything in its path. They're not heading directly for the warehouse. Their path will take them slightly south, maybe missing the property entirely. But the leading edge is only about half a mile away, and any deviation in their course could bring them straight to my walls. I check on the 3 survivors. They're awake now, standing together near the cots, looking up at the ceiling like they can hear the horde approaching. Trevor meets the camera and mouths something. I switch on the intercom. "Is that them?" he asks. "Yes. Stay quiet and stay down there. Do not come upstairs no matter what happens." I cut the connection before he can respond. The horde is close enough now to make out individual infected on the edges. They're moving faster than the isolated ones I saw before, driven by some collective purpose, or maybe just swept along by the mass. The front edge reaches the fence on the south side. They don't stop. They press against it, and the fence starts to give, on a chain link stretching and posts bending. More bodies pile against it, adding weight and pressure. The fence section fails. Posts rip out of the ground, and the infected pour through, spreading across the property. But they're not moving toward the building. They're maintaining their westward trajectory, flowing around the warehouse like water around a stone. I watch in horrified fascination as thousands of infected pass within yards of my walls. If even a fraction of them turned toward the building, the defenses would be overwhelmed in seconds. But they continue west, driven by whatever invisible force guides their movement. It takes 30 minutes for the horde to pass. When the last stragglers disappear into the darkness, I slump in my chair, shaking with relief. The property is empty again. The fence is destroyed on the south side, but the building is intact. We survived. I check the ground floor. Trevor, Scott, and Rebecca are huddled together, pale and shocked. I speak through the intercom. "They're gone. We're safe." Trevor looks at the camera. "That was too close." "Yeah." I slump back in my chair, exhausted and wired simultaneously. Day 9, and I've survived a horde, made contact with other survivors, and learned the infected are capable of coordinated movement. Information that changes everything. I need to rethink my entire survival strategy. But first, I need sleep. I set the alarms for hourly intervals and collapse into bed. Too tired to even undress. Sleep takes me instantly. And for once, the nightmares stay away. Day 10 begins with cautious optimism. The horde has passed, leaving destruction in its wake, but not here. Not yet. I check the cameras obsessively, looking for stragglers or scouts or any sign of return. The field is empty, except for the broken fence and trampled ground. I go down to the ground floor to check on the 3 survivors. They're awake, eating from the rations I provided, looking less shell-shocked than last night. Trevor stands when I enter. "Thank you again for taking us in. We'd be dead without this place." "You said 48 hours. That's non-negotiable. I need to be sure you're not infected." "Understood. We'll stay down here, no problem." Rebecca speaks up. "The fence on the south side is gone. You're going to need help repairing it." She's right, and I hate that she's right. I'll handle it. 3 people can work faster than 1, and if another horde comes through, you'll want that fence up. I study her. She's practical, direct, not pushing, but making a logical argument. The kind of person who survives through planning rather than luck. I'll think about it. For now, you 3 rest and stay quiet. Back upstairs, I review the damage through the cameras. 20 yards of fence completely destroyed, posts torn out, chain links shredded. Repairing it alone would take days. With help, maybe one day if we work efficiently. But trusting them means giving them access to the exterior, to potential escape routes or ambush positions. It means dividing my attention when I need to stay focused on security. The smart move is to stay isolated, handle the repairs myself, maintain complete control. The practical move is to accept help and fix the vulnerability before something else exploits it. I'm still debating when I hear shouting from the ground floor. I grab the gun and run downstairs. Scott is on the floor, convulsing. Trevor and Rebecca are backing away from him, hands over their mouths. I know what I'm seeing even before the symptoms fully manifest. He's turning. When did he get bitten? I demand, gun raised. He didn't. Trevor shouts. I swear we checked each other constantly. He wasn't bitten. Scott's convulsions intensify. His eyes roll back, then snap forward. Pupils dilating. The change is happening fast, faster than the documented incubation period. He shouldn't be turning this quickly, unless the virus has mutated, unless the horde carried a different strain, unless everything I thought I knew is wrong. Scott lunges at Rebecca. She screams and dodges, and I don't have a clear shot with her in the way. Onto Trevor tackles his brother, wrestling him to the ground. But Scott has the strength of the infected now, mindless and relentless. I move closer, looking for an angle. Scott throws Trevor off and scrambles toward me, mouth open, teeth snapping. I pull the trigger. The gunshot is deafening in the enclosed space. Scott drops, a hole in his forehead, dead before he hits the concrete. Silence. Trevor is crying, staring at his brother's body. Rebecca is against the wall, shaking. I keep the gun up, training it between them. Either of you been bitten? Even a scratch? Don't lie to me. They both shake their heads. Trevor can barely speak through his tears. He wasn't bitten, I swear. We would have seen it. We checked every day. Then, how did he get infected? Rebecca's voice is hollow. The test. The rabies test. What if it was a false negative? What if he was infected when we got here? I replay the timeline. They arrived 3 hours ago. Scott showed no symptoms then. Tested negative. Now he's dead, turned and killed. The incubation period is shrinking, which means the virus is evolving, becoming more efficient. Strip, I order. Both of you. I need to see every inch of your skin. They comply without argument, too shocked to resist. I inspect them carefully, looking for any marks, any signs of infection. Nothing. They're clean. But so was Scott, apparently, until he wasn't. Get dressed. You're both staying in quarantine until I'm certain you're not infected. I drag Scott's body to the corner and cover it with a tarp. I'll deal with disposal later. For now, I need to contain the living. Trevor and Rebecca dress in silence. I can see the calculation in their eyes, the realization that they're prisoners now, that I might shoot them the moment they show symptoms. I'm sorry about your brother, I say to Trevor, and I mean it. But I can't risk my life on your word. You understand that, right? He nods, not looking at me. I understand. I lock them in the storage area, a smaller section of the ground floor with its own bathroom and enough supplies for several days. The door is solid steel with a lock I can control remotely. They can't get out without my help. Back upstairs, I add the incident to my log. Day 10, 7:23 a.m. Survivor Scott Gallagher exhibited sudden infection symptoms and was neutralized. Incubation period appears to have shortened drastically or was asymptomatic until rapid onset. Remaining 2 survivors in extended quarantine pending observation. The body on the ground floor is a problem. It will decompose, potentially creating health hazards. But moving it means exposing myself to risk. I need to incinerate it, and soon. I spend the next few hours preparing. I build a makeshift cremation chamber using metal drums and accelerant from the workshop. It's crude, but it will work. I suit up in full protective gear, including a respirator, and drag Scott's body outside. The morning is clear and cool, the storm having passed during the night. I work quickly, loading the body into the drums, soaking it with accelerant, lighting it. The flames catch and spread, consuming the remains. I watch to make sure the fire stays contained, then retreat inside. The smoke from the cremation rises into the sky, a signal to anyone watching that something happened here. I hope no one is watching. By noon, it's done. Ashes and bone fragments, which I bury in a shallow pit behind the warehouse. I return inside and scrub myself thoroughly, paranoid about contamination. Trevor and Rebecca are sitting in the storage area when I check the camera. They're not talking, just sitting in separate corners, lost in their own thoughts. I feel a pang of sympathy, but I suppress it. Sympathy gets you killed in situations like this. Day 11. Trevor and Rebecca show no symptoms. They eat the food I provide through a slot in the door, drink water, use the bathroom. They don't complain or beg to be released. They just wait. I spend the day working on fence repairs by myself. It's slow, exhausting work, digging new post holes and stretching chain link. My hands blister and my back aches, but I make progress. Half the damaged section restored by evening. That night, I dream about Scott. He's standing at the gate, uninfected, asking to be let in. I try to tell him he's already dead, but he doesn't understand. He keeps knocking, keeps asking, keeps waiting for me to open the gate. When I wake, I check the cameras. Empty fields, no threats visible. Day 12. Still no symptoms from Trevor and Rebecca. I'm starting to believe they might actually be clean, or maybe the incubation period is longer for them. There's no way to know for certain. I finish the fence repairs and test the gate. It holds under pressure, though it will never be as strong as it was originally. Good enough, for now. I make a decision. I unlock the storage area and let Trevor and Rebecca out, keeping the gun visible, but not pointed at them. "You're clear," I say. As clear as I can determine, anyway. "You're welcome to stay here as long as you pull your weight. We share supplies, work together, watch each other's backs. But if either of you show any symptoms, any at all, I will put you down without hesitation. We clear?" Rebecca nods. "Clear." Trevor just looks at me, still processing his brother's death. I get it. You did what you had to do. We spend the rest of the day reorganizing supplies and establishing rules. Rebecca turns out to be former military, Army National Guard, with training in logistics and security. Trevor was a high school teacher before the outbreak, adaptable and good with his hands. Between the three of us, we make a decent team. That night, we eat dinner together at the table upstairs. It's awkward, conversation stilted, but it's human contact after days of isolation. It helps. Day 13. We establish a routine. Morning camera checks, breakfast, work assignments. Rebecca takes over perimeter security, reviewing camera feeds and maintaining the fence. Trevor handles supply inventory and meal preparation. I focus on long-term planning and documentation. We don't talk much about before. It's too painful, too raw. Instead, we focus on the present, on survival, on the small tasks that fill the days. But at night, alone in my bed, I think about everyone who died to get me here. The research subjects at Helios who were guinea pigs for a flawed vaccine. The people who trusted the news reports saying the outbreak was contained. Scott, who survived days on the road, only to turn in what should have been a safe haven. Their deaths are on me, at least partially, I could have done more, said more, fought harder to stop Helios. But I didn't. And now I'm alive while millions are dead. The guilt is a constant weight. Day 14. 2 weeks since lockdown. Rebecca finds something on the radio during her morning scan. A broadcast, faint but clearly human, coming from somewhere north. We gather around the radio in the control room, listening to the broken transmission. Calling all survivors. Coordinates 36.74 minus 119.81. Sustainable community. Accepting new members. Screening process required. Bring supplies if possible. The coordinates place them somewhere in the mountains north of Bakersfield, maybe 50 miles away. A 2-day journey on foot. Less if we had a working vehicle. On do we go? Trevor asks. Rebecca is skeptical. Could be a trap. People use broadcasts to lure in victims. Could also be legitimate, I counter. If they have a sustainable community, that's better than hiding in a warehouse hoping supplies last. We debate for hours. The risks, the benefits, the unknowns. In the end, we decide to gather more information before making a move. Rebecca will monitor the broadcast, see if they provide more details or if the message changes in ways that suggest deception. That night, I update my documentation on the Helios outbreak. 42 pages now, a comprehensive account of how the world ended. I include the recent observations about viral mutation and shortened incubation periods. Future researchers will need to know the virus is evolving. If there are future researchers. Day 15. The broadcast continues. Same message on loop. Rebecca notes the coordinates are consistent, which is a good sign. Scammers usually vary their locations to avoid being tracked. We start preparing for a possible journey. Backpacks, supplies, weapons. If we decide to go, we'll need to travel light and fast. The horde could return at any time. Trevor finds a map and plots the route. Mostly back roads and empty land, avoiding major highways where refugees and infected would have congregated. It's doable, if we're careful. That afternoon, Camera 6 picks up movement. A single infected, wandering across the field about 100 yards out. It's the first one I've seen since the horde passed. We watch it through the cameras. It moves aimlessly, stopping occasionally to investigate something we can't see, then continuing. After an hour, it wanders off to the south and disappears. Scout? Rebecca suggests. They don't scout, I say. They don't have the cognitive capacity for reconnaissance. Then why was it here? I don't have an answer. Maybe random chance, maybe something else drew it. Either way, it's gone now. But it reminds us that we're not safe, that the threat is always present, even when invisible. Day 16. We make a decision. We'll attempt contact with the broadcast coordinates. Not the whole group, not yet. Rebecca will go, since she has military training and the best chance of survival if things go wrong. Trevor and I will stay here, monitor the cameras, maintain radio contact. She packs light. 3 days of supplies, water filtration, first aid, weapons. We give her the best equipment we have and review the route one more time. Before she leaves, I give her a copy of the Helios documentation on an encrypted drive. If I don't make it, if something happens here, someone needs to know what caused this. Get it to whoever's in charge of that community, assuming they're legitimate. She pockets the drive. You'll make it. This place is a fortress. Just in case. We watch her leave through the cameras, a lone figure walking north across the empty field. She reaches the edge of camera range and disappears from view. Then it's just me and Trevor, waiting. Day 17. No word from Rebecca. We scan radio frequencies constantly, but hear nothing. Trevor is anxious, pacing the control room, checking cameras every few minutes. She's fine, I tell him, though I'm not sure I believe it. She's probably just out of radio range. Or she's dead, or captured, or turned. Thinking like that doesn't help. He goes quiet, but I can see the worry eating at him. He lost his brother a week ago. Losing Rebecca would break him. That night, I'm alone in the control room when I hear it. A faint voice on the radio, broken by static. On base, this is Rebecca. Coordinates confirmed. Legitimate community. Fortified. Approximately 200 survivors. They're willing to accept, but require screening. I grab the radio. Rebecca, this is base. Repeat your message. Signal is breaking up. Static. Then her voice comes through clearer. Community is real. They have walls, food production, medical facilities. They're cautious but not hostile. They'll accept new members if you pass their screening process. I'm vouching for you both, but you'll need to prove you're not infected. Understood. What's the screening process? Blood test, physical examination, observation period. Same as you did with us. They're not taking chances. When should we come? Soon. They're expecting supply runners in the next few days. If you can time your arrival with theirs, it will be easier to integrate. We discuss logistics for another 10 minutes before the signal degrades and we lose contact. But it's enough. The community is real and it's viable. Trevor and I spend the evening planning our departure. We'll load up with supplies, lock down the warehouse, and make the journey. If the community works out, we can always come back for more supplies later. If it doesn't, we'll return here and continue surviving alone. It feels like a new beginning. A chance at something better than just hiding and waiting for the end. Day 18. We're packing when the cameras pick up movement. Multiple figures approaching from the east. I zoom in, expecting infected. But they're human. 5 of them, moving in tactical formation, carrying rifles. They're wearing mismatched military gear and civilian clothes, faces covered with bandanas. Raiders. I grab the intercom. This is private property. You're trespassing. Leave immediately. One of them looks up at the camera and laughs. Private property? That's cute. In case you haven't noticed, society collapsed. Ain't no property rights anymore. I'm armed and willing to defend this location. Leave now, or I will open fire. Go ahead. We've got firepower too, and we outnumber you. We can wait you out, or we can come in and take what we want. Your choice. I look at Trevor. He's pale, gripping the shotgun with white knuckles. We're not fighters. We're survivors, good at hiding and planning, but not combat. The raiders start toward the fence. I fire a warning shot through one of the gun ports I built into the walls, the bullet kicking up dirt near their feet. They scatter, taking cover behind debris and dried grass. One of them returns fire, bullets sparking off the concrete walls. The warehouse is solid, but we're pinned now. This could go on for hours or days until we run out of ammunition or they find a way inside. We need a different approach. What do you want? I shout through the intercom. Food, water, weapons, whatever you've got. We're not greedy. Give us half and we'll leave you alone. Half my supplies would cut my survival time to 4 months, but being dead would cut it to 0. How do I know you'll keep your word? You don't. But what choice do you have? I mute the intercom and look at Trevor. We negotiate, give them something, hope they leave. And if they don't, then we fight. I unmute. Okay, I'll give you food and water, but you stay outside. I'll bring it to the fence, leave it, and back away. You take it and go. Deal? There's a pause while they confer. Then the leader responds, deal. But if you try anything, we'll burn this place down. I gather supplies, loading boxes with canned goods and water bottles. Enough to satisfy them, but not enough to cripple us. Trevor covers me as I carry the boxes outside, setting them by the fence, then retreating. The raiders approach cautiously, weapons ready. They grab the boxes and inspect the contents, and I can see the disappointment on their faces. They wanted more, but they take what's offered. Pleasure doing business, the leader says. Then they leave, heading west into the fading light. Trevor and I watch them disappear on the cameras. We don't celebrate. We just lock down and pray they don't come back with reinforcements. Day 19. We accelerate our departure plans. The warehouse isn't safe anymore. Raiders know it's here and they might return. We need to leave before that happens. We pack everything we can carry and spend the day preparing. Weapons, food, water, medical supplies, the documentation. We'll cache the rest, hiding it in case we need to return. That night, I take one last look around the control room. This place saved my life. It gave me time to process what happened, to survive the initial chaos. But it's not a home. It's a tomb waiting to be sealed. We leave at dawn, locking the doors behind us, activating the security systems to deter looters. Then we walk north, following Rebecca's route, heading toward the mountains and the promise of community. The journey takes 2 days. We move carefully, avoiding roads, staying low when we hear sounds in the distance. We see infected small groups of 3 or 4, but we avoid them without confrontation. On the second evening, we reach the coordinates, a valley in the foothills, surrounded by rocky terrain. And there, built into the natural defenses, is the community. Walls made from shipping containers and concrete barriers. Guard towers with armed sentries. Gardens and solar panels and the signs of organized life. We're challenged at the gate by 2 guards. We identify ourselves, mention Rebecca's name, submit to the screening process. Blood tests, physical examination, 12 hours of observation in a quarantine tent. All 3 of us pass. Rebecca, Trevor, and me. We're accepted into the community, given housing assignments and work rotations. It's not perfect. Resources are tight, rules are strict, and the threat of infection is always present. But it's something. A chance to rebuild, to survive not just as individuals, but as a group. That night, lying in a real bed for the first time in weeks, I think about the warehouse, about everything that happened to get me here. The guilt is still there, the weight of all those deaths. But maybe in helping this community survive, I can balance the scales a little. Maybe. Day 30. I've been in the community for 11 days now. Moss, they've assigned me to the research team, using my background at Helios to study samples of the virus, looking for weaknesses or treatments. It's slow work with limited equipment, but it's progress. Rebecca is on security detail, training others in defensive tactics. Trevor teaches children in the makeshift school, helping them maintain some normalcy. We're building something here. It might not last. The infected could overrun us, or supplies could run out, or internal conflicts could tear us apart. But for now, we're alive and together and trying. I continue my documentation, adding entries about the community, about the efforts to understand and combat the virus. Maybe someday this will be a historical record, a testament to human resilience in the face of extinction. Or maybe it will just be words on paper, forgotten in the ruins. In either way, I write, because that's what I can do. Bear witness record the truth, hope for a future that might read it. The world ended because of human arrogance and greed. Maybe it will begin again because of human stubbornness and hope. I have to believe that, because the alternative is despair, and despair is its own kind of death. So I survive. We survive. One day at a time, one challenge at a time, one small victory at a time, and we hope it's enough. Day 43. The community has grown. More survivors trickle in every week, people who heard the broadcast or found us through word of mouth. We're up to 237 people now, pushing the limits of our resources. The council, a group of elected leaders, meets daily to discuss rationing and expansion. I attend sometimes as an advisor, providing information about the virus and infection risks. My Helios background makes me useful, even if it also makes me suspect in some people's eyes. There are whispers. People who blame pharmaceutical companies for the outbreak, who look at me like I'm personally responsible. I don't correct them. In a way, I am responsible. I knew what was coming and I didn't stop it. Rebecca defends me when the whispers get too loud. She tells people I saved their lives by preparing, by creating a haven in the warehouse that bought time for others to escape. It helps, a little. Trevor has integrated well. The kids love him, and teaching gives him purpose beyond just surviving. I see him smile sometimes, usually when he's explaining something to a curious child. Small moments of joy in the darkness. We've established farming operations and growing vegetables in the valley soil. The harvest is still weeks away, but it's a start toward self-sufficiency. There's talk of raising chickens or goats, but the risk of attracting infected with animal sounds keeps that on hold. The infected are still out there. We see them sometimes on patrol, wandering the hills, or moving in small groups along the roads. We avoid contact when possible, eliminate them quietly when necessary. So far, we've kept the community safe. But there are reports of another horde forming to the south. Estimates put it at over 5,000 infected, moving slowly but steadily toward population centers. If it changes course, if it heads into the mountains, we'll have no choice but to abandon this place. The council is developing contingency plans, evacuation routes, cache points, rally locations. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. I spend my days in the lab, such as it is. A converted storage container with basic equipment and samples collected from deceased infected. I'm trying to understand the mutation patterns, why the virus evolved to shorten incubation periods and increase aggression. What I've found is disturbing. The virus is adapting to its hosts, becoming more efficient with each generation. The infected we see now turn faster, move with more coordination, retain more physical capability than the early cases. If this trend continues, we could be facing infected that are nearly indistinguishable from living humans in terms of motor function. The only advantage we have is their lack of higher reasoning. They can't plan, can't use tools beyond grabbing and hitting, can't communicate beyond basic moaning. But what if that changes too? What if the next mutation restores some cognitive function? I present my findings to the council. They receive it with grim acceptance, adding it to the growing list of nightmare scenarios we're preparing for. That night, I can't sleep. I lie in bed listening to the sounds of the community. People talking in nearby bunks, children crying, someone playing a guitar badly. Normal sounds, human sounds, proof that life continues despite everything. But I can't shake the feeling that we're living on borrowed time. That all of this, the walls and gardens and hope, is just a delay before the inevitable end. I get up and walk to the perimeter. Rebecca is on duty, scanning the darkness with binoculars. Can't sleep? she asks without looking at me. Too much thinking. Yeah, I get that. We stand in silence for a while. Then she says, "You know this isn't your fault, right? The outbreak. You tried to warn people." I didn't try hard enough. No one would have listened anyway. People don't want to believe disasters are coming. They want to feel safe. I should have destroyed the vaccine, burned the lab, sabotaged the trials, something. And you would have been arrested, and they would have rebuilt, and this still would have happened. You can't carry this guilt forever. It'll eat you alive. I know she's right, intellectually, but knowing doesn't make the weight any lighter. A sound in the distance makes us both freeze, moaning, faint but distinct. We scan with binoculars and spot them, a group of maybe 10 infected moving along the base of the valley. We watch them pass without engaging. They don't approach the walls, don't seem to notice the community, just wandering, driven by whatever instinct guides them. When they're gone, Rebecca turns to me. We're going to survive this. Not everyone, maybe not even most people. But some of us will make it through. And when we do, we'll need people who understand what happened, who can help prevent it from happening again. That's you. That's your penance, if you need one. Survive and bear witness. I nod, not trusting my voice. She pats my shoulder and returns to her scan. I head back to my bunk and lie down, her words echoing in my head. Survive and bear witness. Maybe that's enough. Maybe that's all I can do. Day 67. 2 months since the warehouse lockdown. The community is holding steady at 253 people. We lost 6 to infection and disease, gained 12 from rescue operations and new arrivals. The horde to the south has dissipated, breaking into smaller groups that are easier to avoid. We've had no direct attacks on the community, though patrols report increasing infected activity in the surrounding areas. My research has yielded some results. I've identified the mechanism the virus uses to reanimate dead tissue, a combination of sustained anaerobic cellular respiration and neural pathway hijacking. It's fascinating from a scientific standpoint, horrifying from a human one. More importantly, I've found a potential weakness. The virus is vulnerable to extreme pH changes, particularly alkaline environments. Infected exposed to concentrated lye solutions show rapid cellular breakdown. It's not practical for combat use, but it gives us a disposal method for bodies that's more efficient than burning. The council approves testing, and we set up a treatment system for deceased infected. It works. Bodies dissolve in hours rather than days, reducing contamination risk and freeing up resources. Small victory, but I'll take it. Trevor has started a relationship with one of the other teachers, a woman named Diane, who arrived 3 weeks ago from a failed community in Fresno. I'm happy for him, relieved to see him finding connection after losing Scott. The community needs relationships, families, hope for the future. Rebecca was injured on patrol last week, a sprained ankle from a fall. She's recovering but restless, frustrated by being sidelined. I visit her in the medical tent and we play cards, a distraction from the monotony of healing. You ever think about before? She asks while dealing. Like what you'd be doing if this hadn't happened? Sometimes. Probably still working in research somewhere, living in a city, dating occasionally, being generally dissatisfied with the mundane. You? I'd still be in the Guard, probably deployed somewhere. My life wasn't that different before, honestly. Just different enemies. Do you miss it? Parts of it. The structure, the clear objectives. Here everything is uncertain. We could be overrun tomorrow, or we could last years. No way to know. Uncertainty is human. We were always going to die someday. The outbreak just made the timeline more obvious. She laughs. That's dark. But true. We play in silence for a while. Then she says, I'm glad we met. You and Trevor. I'd be dead without your warehouse. And I'd be alone without you too. So I guess we're even. She wins the hand and grins. Nope, I'm up 3 games. You owe me chocolate from the ration stores. We don't have chocolate. Then you owe me an IOU for chocolate when we find some. I agree, and we play another round. These moments, small and human, keep me grounded. Remind me what I'm surviving for. Day 90, 3 months. The weather is turning colder, autumn transitioning to winter. We're preparing for the temperature drop, insulating shelters and stockpiling firewood. The harvest came in better than expected. We have enough vegetables to supplement our canned goods for several months. The council approves an expansion of the farming operation for next spring. A new arrival brings disturbing news. He's from a community in Sacramento that was overrun 2 weeks ago. According to him, the infected there exhibited new behaviors: tool use, basic problem-solving, coordinated attacks. I question him extensively, trying to separate fact from trauma-induced exaggeration. But his story is consistent and detailed. He describes infected using rocks to break windows, working together to topple barriers, even displaying what might be rudimentary communication through gestures. If he's right, the virus has jumped another evolutionary hurdle. Higher cognitive function, even at a basic level, makes the infected exponentially more dangerous. I bring this to the council and recommend increased security measures. Double guards, reinforced barriers, retreat plans if the walls are breached. They approve most of my suggestions, though resources limit what we can implement immediately. That night, I update my documentation. Day 90 observations. Unconfirmed reports of advanced infected behavior, including tool use and coordinated action. If verified, this represents critical escalation in viral evolution. Recommend all communities implement enhanced security protocols and avoid engagement unless absolutely necessary. I save the file and back it up to multiple drives. This information needs to survive, even if I don't. Day 112, nearly 4 months. Winter has arrived in full, temperatures dropping below freezing at night. We've had our first snow, a light dusting that melted by midday, but signaled the change. The community has adapted. We've insulated shelters, established heating rotations to conserve fuel, and implemented winter rations that prioritize caloric density. People are cold and uncomfortable, but alive. Infected activity has decreased with the temperature. They slow down in the cold, become less aggressive. We're not sure why. Possibly the virus is affected by temperature, or maybe the host bodies function poorly in freezing conditions. Either way, it gives us a reprieve. I've been working on a project in secret, a comprehensive guide to recognizing and responding to infection, written in plain language for survivors without medical training. It covers everything from early symptoms to disposal of bodies, defensive strategies to psychological coping mechanisms. I show it to the council, and they approve printing copies to distribute. We have a small hand-crank printing press, salvaged from a closed newspaper office. It's slow work, but we produce 50 copies over a week, enough for each family group in the community. People read it with mixed reactions. Some are grateful for the information. Others are disturbed by the clinical detail, the acknowledgement of what we're facing. But everyone keeps their copy, storing it carefully for reference. Knowledge is survival, even uncomfortable knowledge. Trevor and Diane are talking about having a child. The idea seems insane to me at first, bringing new life into this dying world. But Rebecca points out that children are hope, proof that we believe in a future. I don't argue. If they want to create life despite everything, who am I to discourage them? Day 146. Nearly 5 months. The winter is harsh. The coldest on record according to the weather station we've managed to restore. Snow covers the valley regularly now, and we've had to implement strict fuel rationing. We've lost 8 people to the cold and related illnesses. The medical team does what they can with limited supplies, but pneumonia and hypothermia are difficult to treat without modern facilities. The infected are almost dormant. We see them occasionally, frozen figures standing in the snow, barely moving. When spring comes, they'll likely reanimate, but for now they're minimal threat. Food is becoming a concern. The winter rations are depleting faster than projected due to the increased caloric needs of staying warm. The council discusses sending out supply runs to nearby towns, but the risk is high with snow covering roads and limited visibility. I volunteer to join the first run. Rebecca is still recovering from her ankle injury, but insists on coming anyway. Trevor stays behind to continue teaching and support Diane. We set out with a team of 6, following old highways buried under snow. The world is silent and white and empty, beautiful in a desolate way. We reach a small town, barely more than a cluster of buildings around a main street. It's been picked over already, but we find some useful items. Canned goods in a collapsed grocery store, medications in an abandoned pharmacy, blankets and clothing in a department store. While loading our finds, we hear something. Not moaning, not the sounds of infected. Crying, a child. We trace it to a house on the edge of town. Inside, we find a girl, maybe 6 years old, huddled under blankets with 3 frozen adults. Probably her family. She's terrified, malnourished, nearly hypothermic, but alive. We wrap her in blankets and give her water. She doesn't speak, just stares with huge eyes. Trauma beyond words. We bring her back to the community. The medical team treats her, and one of the families agrees to foster her until she recovers enough to communicate. Saving her doesn't erase the millions who died. But it's something. A small light in the darkness. Day 178, 6 months since the warehouse. The girl's name is Amy. She started talking again, slowly, describing how her family tried to wait out the winter in their home, how her parents and older brother got sick and died, how she stayed with their bodies because she didn't know what else to do. She asks if the zombies are gone. We tell her no. But they're sleeping for now. She accepts this with the resilience of children, adapting to new reality faster than adults. Trevor and Diane are expecting. Diane is 3 months along, healthy despite the conditions. The community celebrates cautiously, aware of the risks, but choosing to hope. I've been promoted to the council, representing the research and medical division. It's more responsibility than I wanted, but I accept it. Someone needs to advocate for scientific approaches to our problems. We're planning for spring, expanding the farming, sending out more supply runs, recruiting new members if we find survivors. The goal is to reach 500 people by summer, creating a large enough population for long-term sustainability. It's ambitious, maybe too ambitious. But what else can we do except try? Yoka Day 231, almost 8 months. Spring has arrived, snow melting to reveal mud and dead grass. And the infected are waking up. We've had 3 encounters in the past week, small groups of infected wandering near the perimeter. We've eliminated them quietly, but their presence signals the return of danger. Patrols report larger groups forming in the towns, infected that survived the winter clustering together. It's unclear if this is instinctive or if they're exhibiting the coordinated behavior Sacramento survivors reported. Either way, we're preparing for increased activity. Double guards, fortified positions, stockpiling ammunition. Amy has integrated into the community. She stays with Trevor and Diane now, helping with teaching and participating in community activities. She still has nightmares, and still flinches at loud noises, but she's healing. Rebecca's ankle has fully recovered. She's back on active patrol, leading training sessions for new security recruits. She's tougher than before, the injury having taught her patience and caution. I continue my research, working on vaccine development using salvaged equipment and limited resources. Progress is slow, maybe impossible with our technology level, but I have to try. Creating a real vaccine, one that prevents infection without causing reanimation, could change everything. If I can succeed where Helios failed, maybe I can balance the scales. Day 294, nearly 10 months. Summer is in full swing, crops growing well, temperatures high. The infected are fully active again, and we're seeing increased aggression. Last week, a horde of about 300 attacked the western wall. We held them off with concentrated fire and defensive positions, but we lost 2 guards and expended significant ammunition. The council debates whether to relocate, find somewhere more defensible or more remote. But moving 280 people, including children and elderly, would be dangerous. We decide to stay and reinforce. I've had a breakthrough in the vaccine research. By modifying the viral envelope proteins, I've created a variant that provokes immune response without causing neural pathway hijacking. Tests on scavenged lab rats show promising results. But human trials are a different matter. Without proper facilities or ethical oversight, testing on people is dangerous. I present the findings to the council, and they authorize limited trials on volunteers who understand the risks. 3 people volunteer. One of them is Rebecca. I try to talk her out of it. The vaccine could kill her, could turn her, could fail spectacularly in ways I can't predict. But she's determined. If this works, it saves lives, she says. If it doesn't, at least we tried. That's better than dying to an infected bite without fighting back. I can't argue with her logic, even though I hate it. The trials begin. I administer the vaccine to all 3 volunteers and monitor them closely. For the first 48 hours, nothing. No symptoms, no adverse reactions. On the 3rd day, one of them develops a fever. I quarantine him immediately, watching for signs of turning. The fever breaks after 6 hours, and he recovers. Blood tests show antibodies. The vaccine worked. I conduct exposure tests, allowing controlled contact with infected tissue. None of the volunteers show infection. The antibodies are neutralizing the virus. It's not perfect. The vaccine requires multiple doses and doesn't provide 100% immunity. But it's something. A tool in our survival arsenal. The council authorizes broader trials. Within a month, 50 people have received the vaccine. 47 show positive antibody response. 3 show no effect, though they don't exhibit adverse reactions either. It's a start. Day 365. 1 year since the warehouse lockdown. 1 year since the world ended. The community has grown to 312 people. We've lost 43 to infection, disease, and raids. We've gained 97 through rescue and recruitment. Diane gave birth to a healthy boy named Noah. Trevor cried when he held his son for the first time, tears of joy mixed with terror at bringing life into this world. But Noah is thriving, a symbol of hope and continuity. Amy is his favorite babysitter, gentle and patient with the infant. Watching her care for Noah, I see her healing, finding purpose beyond survival. The vaccine program has expanded. 120 people are now vaccinated, with plans to reach everyone in the community by year's end. We're sharing the formula with other survivor groups we've made contact with, spreading the protection. The infected remain a threat. We've had 5 major attacks in the past year, each one testing our defenses. But we've held, adapted, survived. I continue documenting everything. The outbreak timeline, the vaccine development, the community's growth and struggles. It fills dozens of notebooks now, a comprehensive record of humanity's worst disaster and our attempts to recover. Someday, I hope someone reads this. Not as horror or tragedy, but as history. Proof that we endured, that we fought back, that we refused to surrender to extinction. On the anniversary, the council holds a memorial service. We read names of the fallen, light candles, share memories. It's painful and necessary, acknowledging loss while celebrating survival. That night, I stand on the wall looking out at the valley. Stars overhead, lights from the community behind me. Darkness and unknown ahead. Rebecca joins me. You okay? Yeah, thinking about how far we've come. And how far we still have to go. That too. She's quiet for a moment, then says, I never thanked you properly. For saving us that night at the warehouse, for taking the risk. You've thanked me dozens of times. Not for this specifically. You could have turned us away, kept yourself safe. But you didn't. That choice led to everything we have now. I think about that night. The decision to open the gate. The gamble that could have killed me. I was lucky. You were good people. We were desperate people who happened to be good. There's a difference. Maybe. We stand in comfortable silence. 2 survivors who became friends, watching over a community built from ashes. Tomorrow will bring new challenges. Infected, resource shortages, internal conflicts. But tonight, and we're alive and together and hopeful. Thanks for watching, guys. I will be back with another story.